way you can be focused on the activities. So as always, successful agents do these things every day. They grow their business and they run their business. So they lead generate for buyers and sellers. Once they have someone interested, they make listing presentations to get seller listings. They do buyer consultations to get buyer listings. And then they preview real estate every day so that they have a firm grasp on the market. Then they run their business. Once you have that listing, you have to market the listing. Once you have the buyer, you must show them homes. Once you have them where they find a place that they'd like to put an offer on, or someone would like to put an offer on your listing, then you go under contract. And we have everything from negotiation of our contracts to transaction management of contract to close, making sure that all T's are crossed, the I's are dotted. So we're going to work with our compliance department and make sure that we're as risk averse as possible. We're going to make sure that our vendor management, our vendor partners, the people that we do business with, are in alignment with our business, with our customer service experiences. We're going to attend trainings like this and gain accountability through coaching. We're going to manage our money by building wealth and managing expenses. And then we're going to set goals. We're going to set goals for ourselves. We're going to set goals for our business. We're going to set goals for our world. And today, of course, is to lead generate. We're absolutely going to lead generate like we do every day. We're going to set goals, and then we're going to talk about the training, coaching, and accountability that can help you achieve those goals. So this quote is one that I had mentioned earlier when we were in Power Up. And so one of the things is, this is a great quote from Gary Keller in The One Thing: who we are and where we want to go determine what we do and what we accomplish. The person who has big dreams is going to do big things in order to achieve those dreams. The person who wants for nothing and therefore doesn't need to do anything is not going to intentionally do a whole bunch of work or do anything that they don't want to do. So it's about finding a balance, absolutely. But first and foremost, we have to gain alignment with ourselves and our goals. So understanding that your thinking and your actions, right? So if our thinking is big and our actions are big, we're going to have big outcomes. If our thinking is small and our actions are small, we're going to have small outcomes. And you might say, well, duh, that makes total sense. And the point here is that if you think really big, and even if you fail miserably about achieving the goal, you are still going to have unbelievable outcomes that's going to be way more than whatever you would have done if you just were having small thinking. So the question is, how big is your box, the box that you're creating in this effort, in terms of the amount of thinking and time and effort that you're doing by taking action? You know, I've got a lot of people. I've now coached probably in excess to 200 or 300 people for thousands of hours, for millions of dollars in sales volume. And I share that with you because I've had a lot of people that have gone through this process that are big thinkers and they're not big doers. So understanding that you can plan to make a plan to sometime in the future, possibly do something, to revisit a plan, to maybe actually take action. And what's going to happen is you're going to have a ton of great thinking and not a whole lot of outcome because of the fact that you didn't take action. So the question here is what can I do to achieve my big goal? How can I achieve my big goal? And with whom or who could help me achieve my goal along the way? So understanding that it is always a what, how, or who question when we're talking about ourselves and our business and achieving those big goals. So we're going to do an activity. I really wish that they would change the slide, at least so that you can actually see all of it. So what you can see here is you're going to take a piece of paper or a notepad or whatever is near you. We're going to take about 5 to 10 minutes to do that. We'll do 5 minutes to do this. And so what you'll see is that there are a couple examples here. In the square boxes, so you're going to do 5 square boxes that are going to be around a center circle, and leave the center circle blank, and leave all of the rectangles or the boxes blank as well. And what you're going to do is you're going to pick 5 people, 5 experiences, 5 things that are important to you, and you're going to put those in the box. So you'll see that Austin loves pets. So the Austin's Pets Alive. So one of the goals is to donate a cat habitat for $5,000 because it's a nonprofit organization that this person is passionate about. This person is thinking about their children, so they name Sarah and Hunter. And the goal is to get them through school debt-free. And so they're making an assumption that it's about $60,000 for the college education for both Sarah and for Hunter. Another goal is maybe to help mom and dad pay off their mortgage. And so the remaining balance on their mortgage is $18,000. So what I need you to do is I need you to find a person, an organization, maybe an experience that you want to give to someone in your world or an organization in your world. Pick 5 of them, and then I want you to put a price around it. So if you think that, like for Eve's point, Eve wants to be able to leave a trust for her grandchildren so that they can go to college debt-free. Well, what's that cost going to be? Let's say that one of these things is that Kat would love to take Chris on a wonderful experience somewhere internationally. And so she would put Chris's name and she would say, maybe it's a trip to Germany. And what's the cost? What do we think the all expense paid cost is going to be for Kat to take Chris to Germany? Maybe for me, the goal is financial independence. That is a goal of mine, and I'm working towards that. So part of that is what that does and what the life will look like for Doug and I if we can do that. So what is that amount that I need to put away this year? So these numbers can be something that you hope to achieve within 1 year, 3 years, or 5 years. It doesn't matter. So pick 5 people, 5 organizations, 5 things that you can do or that you would like to achieve, like to pay for, and go ahead and put those in the boxes around the circle. And then you're going to tabulate all of the 5 total amounts, and you're going to put that in the center circle. And that's going to be the cost of your big life, at least in this section, and we'll take it a step further. So it is 9:20. Let's go ahead and take about 5 minutes to do this exercise. And I'm going to shut up now. All right. So will someone share with me one of the things that you had written down, whether it was an organization, a person? What is it that you were wanting to do, that experience that you were wanting to give, and then the cost associated with it? Go ahead and put that in the chat box for me, please. So Kimberly said a college fund for her son, $100,000. Okay. Linda says pay some things off for $40,000. Absolutely. Okay. What else? Kat, further her education. Price tag is $10,000. Thank you, Kat. Okay. What else? Eve said a wedding for $60,000. Okay. Wonderful. Kelly says paying off mortgage. Yeah. Eve, are you engaged? Kelly says pay off mortgage, which is $175,000. Okay. And Eve said my daughter. Fantastic. So one of the things that, and you can keep putting them in, I love seeing these so that I can hold you accountable to them later, is first and foremost, we also need to know, what does it cost to run my household, right? So what does it cost to run my household? What does that mean? For a monthly basis, if I was to look at my household as a company, excuse me, what does that cost look like for a monthly basis to pay for the electricity, to pay for the mortgage, to pay for the car payment, the car insurance, food, everything that you spend that would be an expense that would be planned for your lifestyle on a monthly basis. And so what we're going to do is we're going to say whatever that number is. So let's just say that for simple math, that it costs $5,000 a month to run my household between food and mortgage and my phone payment and my subscription to Disney Plus and Netflix and Amazon Prime and all the other stuff. That's just a recurring payment. Let's say that it costs me about $5,000 to run my household. So then we would say that that number is $60,000 a year. And so I would take that number, and then I would also take the things that you had written down. So those 5 boxes that you had put, and I would take that information and I would say, okay, so to Eve's point, Eve has a wedding. And so when is the wedding scheduled, or is it scheduled, Eve? For Kat wants to further her education. And so by when does she need to come up with the $10,000? Linda said that she wants to pay some things off for $40,000. By when do you want to pay that off? In 1 year, in 3 years, in 5 years, whatever that looks like. So Eve has shared that it looks like it's September of 2021 for her daughter's wedding. Obviously, there's going to be some deposits that are going to be required. However, the bulk of that is going to be due in September. So let's just say that it's not based on deposits, although it will be. But let's say that it's by 2021, the full amount that she's going to need to contribute is $60,000. So what we would do is we would take the remaining, 16 months. So we would take her $60,000 and we would divide that by 16 months, assuming that Eve hasn't put anything away thus far for the wedding. And so we would find out what that number is. So in this case, let's say that for Eve, let's say that Eve has the same household expenses. Just again, for simple math, everyone's going to do this with their own thing. So go ahead and pull out your $1,000 calculator. So we're going to say the 60,000, right, divisible by 16, is that she has to put away $3,750 a month for that wedding to be paid off by September of next year. So we would say the $5,000 as her base amount, that is her monthly expenses. Oop, sounds like someone's going to the hospital. $5,000 of monthly expenses already, that's her base. And then we're adding the $3,750 to that. And you're going to do this with all 5 of your the rectangles or squares that you put down. Because although the My Big Life portion here gave you a total number, I like to really chunk it down as to what are some meaningful goals that I can set around on a monthly basis to achieve those things. So go ahead and do that. I'd love for you to take a few minutes. You're not going to have to share this in the chat box if you don't want to. You're not going to have to share it with anybody besides yourself, your coach, and your spouse, partner, significant other, or the people that are affected. You know, the daughter whose wedding is a part of this, to Kelly to bring her family to Florida a few times a year, like letting them know that this is a part of your goals, so that when they call you at 9 o'clock when you're supposed to be lead generating, you can remind them what your goals are. So go ahead and put down what is your monthly expenses, times that by 12 to find out what your yearly expenses are. You could just do this on a monthly basis. So what's your monthly expenses plus the 5 boxes that you did by when you want to achieve them. So if it's in 12 months, if it's in 24 months, 36 months, 60 months, whatever it might be for you, go ahead and do that. And then you're going to figure out what your total number is that you need to net on a monthly basis. So if you can do me a favor, I'm going to give you some time to do this, a couple minutes. When you have hit your number where you know what the monthly amount is to fund your big life based on what you told me that you want to do or the experiences that you want to give or have, then just in the chat box, just say, I got it, ready, whatever you want to put, so that I know that as a collective group, we can move on. You have your monthly net number that you need. Okay, thank you, Kelly. Okay, to clarify for Kimberly, what you can see here, it's only showing you a segment of it, but the graphic that's in front of you, we're taking 5 things that we would like to fund, right? Whether it's an experience, whether it is paying off debt, whether it's buying your dream car, whatever it might be, those 5 things, and then we need to know what they cost. So what would it be for me to bring my family down a couple times a year? What would it mean for me to, okay, so now what we're doing is we're just saying, what is that crunch down? So if I want to bring my family down in August, assuming that they can, then I have 3 months to bring them down. What is that cost going to be? Let's say that it's going to be $5,000 to bring them here. And so I would take the $5,000 and I would divide that by the 3 months that I have to generate that income and figure out what that looks like. Eve has it great. So the idea here is I would say, here, let me see if I can do a screen share. Let's see, is it gonna let me do that? So let's say that I have $5,000 of monthly expenses. This is my operations cost. Then let's say that it costs me, I want to put $60,000 away for my future. So I'd like to invest $60,000 this year. Let's say that I've already invested $5,000. So I have a remaining balance of $55,000, and I have June, July, August, September, October, November, December. Let's say that I just want it by the end of this year. So I'm going to take the 55,000 and I'm going to divide that by my 7 months that I have left. So then that would mean that I would need to put away $7,857. And this is for future investment. Let's say that I want to pay off a debt. So let's say that I have, someone had said that they'd like to pay off a couple things for $40,000. Let's say that I want to pay that off in 2 years. So I'm going to say the 40,000, and I'm going to divide that by the 24 months because I want it to be done by 2 years from today. So that means that I need to put 1,666 away for paying off debt. And then let's say that I have $8,000 left on my car and that I will be completely paid off. And I want that to be paid off by December as well. And so I need to pay $1,142 to pay off car. So now with that, I'm going to say that it's the 5,000 plus the 7,857 plus the 1,666 plus the 1,142 means that I need to net $15,665 total net. Now here's the thing. In real estate, when I get a commission check, do I get to keep 100% of it? No or no? No, thank you. Yeah, so there's a certain portion of it that goes to my broker. There's a certain portion of it that goes to the mothership at Keller Williams International for royalty. There is a certain portion of it that goes to my operating expenses. There's a certain portion of it that goes to my taxes. And so let's just say, for simple math, please, no one who wants to rip my head off because I'm not doing this 100% accurately. Let's just say that I'm going to net roughly about 50% of what I make. Because again, there's a certain portion that goes to my broker, there's a certain portion that goes to royalty, there's a certain portion that goes to taxes, and there's a certain portion that I put away in my expense account. So let's just say that it's 50% is what I net. So then I would need to take my net and then times that by 2 to equal my gross that I need to do on a monthly basis. So I would say 15,665 times 2 is 31,330 is the amount that I need for total gross. And so what I would do is say, what's my average commission? So what is your average commission? For some of you, you might not have any numbers. I can lean on Kat and I can lean on Eve, people who've been seasoned and you know, they have a couple of years where they can see their trends. So what is your average commission, gross commission income? Okay, so Eve says 10,000, okay? Just so I can get some consensus. Kat, what would you say is your average? It's about the same, okay? So I'm going to say, what is the amount that I need to do? And so that's going to be divided by, so I'm going to take my 300 or my 31,330 330, and I'm sorry, my 31,330, and I'm going to divide that by an average of $10,000 of gross commission income, our GCI, and that's going to get me the total amount of closings that I need per month in order for me to have my life by design, my big goals. So how many times can 10 go into 31,330? Yeah, 3.13. Thank you, Kat. And since it's just one short of pi, what we're going to do is we're going to round up, right? Because there is not 0.13 of a transaction. So we're going to round up. We're going to say that I need to have 4 closings per month. So I need to have 4 closings per month in order for me to live on $5,000 a month, for me to pay off my debt of $40,000 in 2 years, to put $60,000 away in my savings account or my investment accounts this year. I will have my car completely paid off by December. And in order for me to have that life by design, all I need to do is just close 4 houses per month. What are your thoughts on that before we keep moving? What are your thoughts on being able to do this breakdown? Yeah, Eve says she loves it. Yeah, absolutely. So I want you to do the same thing. I want you to take what is your monthly expense. You already got your number, right? I trust that you've already told me that you've already gotten this number, whatever your total net is. Go ahead and run your business. Run your business from the perspective of, or run your numbers rather, from the perspective that your business is running on a 50% profit. Some of you probably profit more than that. Some of you might profit a little bit less than that, but just round out and say that you're going to net roughly about 50%. So then you'll times your monthly net that you needed for your big life. You're going to times that number by 2 to get your gross amount. Don't call my income gross. And you're going to go ahead and take that number and you're going to divide that by the average commission. So for some of you, if you want to be conservative, the average commission or the average sales price in our area is roughly about $300,000. And so that's about $9,000 of gross commission income. And if you want to be ultra conservative, you can run your numbers based on an average sales price of $250,000. And that would be $7,500 for gross commission income. So go ahead and take your gross number that you need a month and divide that by whichever, whether you want 7,500 as your average gross commission income, or 9,000 or 10,000, whatever your number is. And then in the chat box, just put down the number, whether it's 2, 3, 4, 10, 24, however many closings you need per month in order to fund your big life. Okay, so Eve, it's 3. It's 3 closings for her in order for her to be able to put some money away for a wedding, to be able to put some money away for possibly grandchildren's education, as well as her monthly expenses. Awesome. To completely fund. Love that. It wouldn't be a class with me if there wasn't some kind of math. So I know that some of you are doing some calculations. Please put in the chat box the number of closings that you need. If you are lost somewhere in this number calculation, please just say I'm lost, and that way I can help you through that. But it's really important that before we move on, that you have an understanding of how many closings you need to have. Okay. Yeah, so what was your total monthly expenses? So, right, you take your total monthly expenses. So, Kimberly, what was the total amount to fund your life? Kimberly, is that per year? What is that broken down to per month in order for you to achieve your goal? So while Kimberly is getting me her monthly numbers, Kelly is asking yep, absolutely, Kelly Reynolds, you round up to a total of 3. Kelly is asking, let me see if I can share that whiteboard again. No, it killed my whiteboard. I'll have to do that offline for you, Doreen. So for Kelly is asking what would she need to do in order to net 100,000 a year. So what we would do is we would take that 100,000 and we would times it by 2. So she has a gross commission income that she needs of 200,000, right? And so the 200,000, and we would divide that by 7,500, means that Kelly needs to do 27 transactions for the year. We would divide that by 12, and that means that she needs to have 2.25 closings per month. Since there isn't 0.25, well, technically, if you have a referral, you could, but since there isn't 0.25, then Kelly, what we would do is we would round up and we would say, in order for you to take home $100,000 a year, you just need to close 3 closings per month. That does seem reasonable. Yeah, anything's realistic if you're willing to do the work. Absolutely. And there is an abundance of rookies of the year from our office and other offices that have done in excess of 24, 30 transactions their first year and have absolutely achieved what it is that you're hoping to achieve in their very first year in real estate. So absolutely. And know that those people oftentimes, actually what's very interesting is that our rookie of the year in the downtown St. Pete Market Center for last year, for the year before that, and the year before that, all 3 of them, 2 of them were ladies, 1 was a gentleman, all 3 of them have moved here where they didn't know anybody in this area. Apparently, my dogs are being attacked by the cat or something's happening. So I'm going to go to the next slide and hope that no one's died. All right, so understanding your goal, we've kind of already done some of this where we've had this conversation. So understanding that not all of the money that we have is ours. So we understand that about 50% of it is our net because a certain portion of it goes to with gross commission income. Half of the total commission when we take a listing, usually half of it goes to the other agent. Then our market center takes a certain portion of our money. Then the business expenses take a portion of our money. And so we're left with a certain portion. And oftentimes what happens is you'll hear Gary Keller, Jay Papasan, the Millionaire Real Estate Agent, they will oftentimes refer to this as the 30-30-40. So they're talking about a net of about 40% of your money instead of 50% like what I said. Many of you here in your first year by being a single agent, not having a team, not having a full-time admin, not having some of those additional expenses, you will actually net slightly more than someone who is running a larger team because quite frankly, you just have less expenses than they do. So just understand that. This is explaining a little bit as what we just did. So we've already done this in terms of basing on a 50% net. So I don't want you to go through the specifics because those numbers are slightly different. Their cap is different than ours. There's a couple different things. You just focusing on a 50% net makes for the math to be really simple. And now we just need to control your expenses to make sure that you are netting 50%. So doing the right activities in order to achieve your goals. So now that you know what that is, you know that it's 3 transactions per month, 4 transactions per month, whatever your number was that you needed for monthly closings, we now get really excited. You mean to tell me that I only need to have 3 closings a month, 4 closings a month in order for me to achieve my wildest dreams of my big life that I've said that I want to do. And that's called a life by design, not a life by default. And so what we need to do is we need to focus on the 80-20 principle. We need to do the activities that are going to get us the biggest results. And so this is the idea that our big rocks, they make more money. They also make more time with our family. And they also keep us more organized when we make sure that our big rocks are the first priority. Now, there's a story around this that is a professor goes and he stands in front of a classroom and he holds up a jar. And he puts some rocks into the jar until he makes it all the way to the top. And he asks the class, has the jar been completely filled? And the classroom says, yes. He says, okay. So then he goes behind the podium and he grabs some pebbles and he pours some pebbles and they fall in between all of the rocks until that's full up to the lid. And he asked the classroom, now is the jar full? I said, yes, absolutely. He says, okay. So then he goes back under the podium and he grabs a bag of sand and he pours the sand in between the pebbles and the rocks until he fills to the top of the lid. And he asked the classroom, what about now? And of course, at this point, they're getting really excited and partly frustrated. And they said, yes, I mean, there's nothing else that you could possibly do. I mean, you filled every morsel of air with some kind of piece of sand or rock. So then he goes underneath the podium one last time and he grabs a glass of water and he pours the water into the jar. And he asks, what about now? And the answer, of course, is yes. This is, at this point, he has done everything that it was necessary. Now, had he poured all of the water in before anything else, if he had put in sand, there wouldn't have been any more room because the water would spill over. If he put in the sand and the pebbles and water, there would be no room for the big rocks to all fit into the jar. And so the idea here is that oftentimes we fill our time with the things that are not necessarily important because we're not focused on our big rocks. The big rocks allow us to make that more money. They allow us to have time with our family, and they allow us to be more organized and prioritize the time that we do. Listen, I love working as much as the next guy, and that's not a whole lot, right? I'm very passionate about what I do. I'm very passionate about building my businesses. I'm very passionate about the people that are in my world. And I would like to work to the point where that's funded, and then I'd like to not work anymore because I'd like to spend time with my friends and family. I'd like to break bread. I'd like to, if you hear me, I usually like to be submerged in water with a drink in my hand and a cigar in my mouth. Like, that is my happy place. And so I can't enjoy that happy place if I'm always rising and grinding and working and burning, you know, the wick at both ends. The point of this is that by being really intentional on the 20% that you have to do, you can absolutely fund that life that you're looking for and then stop working because you've done what you needed to do. And so that's a really great question that's here, which is, what is the one thing that you can do right now that would make everything else easier or unnecessary? So what's the one thing that I can do today that if by doing so makes everything else easier or unnecessary in order for me to fund my big life? And so we know that your top 20% of your business is to lead generate, lead follow-up, go on appointments, negotiate contracts, scripts, and role play. I'll say those again for those of you that are not familiar with this. And then there's some of you that are just going to tune me out because you hear me talk about this all the time, which is lead generation, lead follow-up, go on appointments, negotiate contracts, scripts, and role play. Now that's my 20%. But the question is, what is the one thing? What is the one thing that I can do right now that would make everything else easier or unnecessary? And so out of these activities, the lead gen, lead follow-up, go on appointments, negotiate contracts, scripts, and role play, it's absolutely going to be lead generation, or what I refer to as client acquisition. Client acquisition is the most important thing that you can do for your business to ensure that you will have the money that you need to fund the big life, to pay for the wedding, to pay for the vacation, to pay off the debt, to have the retirement that you're looking for. Whatever the answer is, to have family come into Florida, it is always going to fall down to lead generation as the one thing, the client acquisition as the one thing that I can do that will make everything else easier or necessary. So again, we've seen this. I don't think that you need to hear me say it again, because I will say it every morning for the next 3 weeks. And yet we focus on growing our business and running our business with the one thing that we can do is to lead generate for buyers and sellers. There is an activity and a document that we use that's called the 411. I'm not going to do a deep dive on the 411 today. I'm going to do a deep dive on the 411 next Thursday during our launch mastermind at noon. For those of you that would like to know how to use this tool and how it really can change your life and your business. This is probably my favorite document ever. It's probably my favorite tool from Keller Williams, and it is a piece of paper. And so the idea here is that you've got an annual goal. Many of you have already identified what that annual goal is because you've said what your big life looked like. We've then crunched that down into the total number of money that you need to make each month and how many closings you need to have each month. So that falls into our monthly goals. And then we have 4 weeks. So the 411 stands for 4 weeks, 1 month, 1 year. So the activities that I do this week are going to get me towards my monthly goal, which is going to get me towards my yearly goal. The activities that I do today are going to get me on track to my weekly goal, which is going to get me on track to my monthly goal, which is going to get me on track with my yearly goal. And so understand that this document, this 411, is not a to-do list. It's a have-to-do list. What are the things that I have to do that's such that by doing it makes everything else easier or unnecessary? This is what are the big rocks that I must achieve in order for me to be on track with my goal. And so we're going to do a deep dive on that, but I do want you to start framing your weeks or looking at the activities that you can do, whether you use this document, the 411, or you use the priority list that we were exposed to on Wednesday during Power Up, the one that came from the Ben Kinney training portion of the podcast. So understanding either one is going to be helpful for you. I love for the weekly goals to reflect what are the big things that I need to do. So maybe I know that I have to have a certain amount of appointments in order for me to have my closings. If I want 3 closings, then I'm probably going to need to go on at least 6 appointments if I have a 50-50 conversion rate. That if I go on an appointment, then I'm going to have that closing. So if it's 6 appointments that I need to do a month, then I'm probably going to schedule that I need to schedule 2 per week in order for me to actually go on 6, in order for me to take a certain amount of listings and have the closings that I need to do. And those are the types of activities that we do, which is to identify how many people do I need to talk to? How many events do I need to go to? Maybe I am farming a neighborhood and I want a postcard to go out on the 15th of the month. So then at the end of week 2 on my 411, I would put my postcard is due, or postcard must be dropped to the mailbox, whatever it might be that you want to be focused on. This tool is a great way to make sure that you're always putting your 20% first. So don't lose focus. Remind yourself of your why you're doing what you're doing. And so a great thing that you can do with this is you can create a vision board, something that's visual, that's showing you some of those things that you hope to achieve. Maybe you want to do it as the background of your phone. There's a really great app that's called Pick Stitch. That's PICSTITCH. And Pick Stitch allows you to do a picture collage so that you can set that as the background to your phone. That way you can see some of the experiences that you want to have. I mean, how often do we look at the home screen of our phone? So just to be reminded of that collage 20, 30, 50 times a day can be really helpful. Making sure that you're revisiting your goals every morning so that you understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because I promise there's going to be a day that you wake up that you're just going to say, I don't want to lead gen. And to look at that image of your daughter wearing a wedding dress, to be able to see the picture of the hotel that you plan to book a reservation in that country far, far away, whatever it is for you, to visually have that done. Visualization is one of the most powerful things that we can do in order to achieve our goals. And so really making sure that you're surrounded by positive people and positive images is really going to make sure that you don't lose focus. Accountable people achieve results others can only dream of. And, you know, accountability, self-accountability or self-discipline is a mirage. It looks like it's there. You think you can touch it. You think that it's something that you can see. And yet when you get close to it, you realize that it's not actually there. A perfect example of this is when I'm at the gym. If I'm doing something by myself at the gym, I am going to tap out way sooner than if I was paying a personal trainer to stand over me and make sure that I just did one more, that I just did 3 more, that I just did 5 more. If you're lead generating by yourself, you're going to be far less to push yourself than if someone was lead generating with you, that they were making phone calls with you and they were watching you, whether or not you were making phone calls or you got up and washed the dishes or you went to go and do the laundry during the 3 hours of lead gen that you're supposed to be doing. Accountable people achieve results that others can only dream of. And you have to understand that accountability is going to be external. You're going to have people in your world, whether it's a coach, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a spouse, partner, significant other, you're going to have a series of accountability partners that are going to be really important. And that's why we start that with script practice. That's why we start that with group coaching. That's why we start that with one-on-one coaching. So please understand that you are going to have to embrace accountability in order for you to achieve the things that you want to achieve. All right. So let's have some conversations. What were some takeaways from today's class? What were some things that were meaningful for you out of today's discussion? And what ideas or mindset were new for you from today's class? There are the birds of historic Uptown, just chirping away. The good news is, if anything ever happens to me, St. Anthony's is right across the street. Kelly said that her dreams are in her reach. I love that. Absolutely. Kat, realizing how achievable my goals really are. Yeah, sometimes we build this big wall around our goals to realize that we're the ones that built the damn wall. Take it down, right? Not to get political with walls, but I mean, it's pointless. Why would you put a wall up on your own dreams? Right? Eve is, I'm always surprised how easy it is to distill what is needed. Absolutely. Kelly Reynolds, focus on actions to achieve the goals. Agreed. Yeah, I haven't been as intentional with my afternoons this week. And I'm realizing that, and I'm paying for that in not having the progress. But instead of beating myself up for not being, just squeezing the life out of every possible minute during this week, it's an understanding that that is okay. And I have been doing a lot of thinking time, but I haven't necessarily been doing a lot of the actions. And so instead of beating myself up for that, I'm going to time block what are the activities, what's the 20% that I can focus on this afternoon, what's the 20% that I can focus on this weekend that can really move the levers for the next week and for me achieving my goals. Absolutely. How will your behaviors be different going forward? What actions will you be taking this week to implement what we've done here today? Maybe it's time blocking. Maybe it's building a vision board or revisiting a vision board. Maybe it's to go ahead and do that pick stitch collage on your phone so that you can be reminded of your goals. Doreen said she needs to keep her eye on the ball. the proverbial ball. Absolutely. Kat's going to go to college. I'm just kidding. She says, I'm going to do that collage. Absolutely. That would be wonderful. Linda said, do a better job of setting habits in place. Okay, absolutely. Eve says, I love the pick stitch thing. Absolutely. Although you said PIK. So I just want to make sure that when you search, when you Google or you whatever in your apps, it's going to be PIC. Yep. Just want to make sure. I'm sure that there's a knockoff version that is PIK. And that's totally fine too. Understanding that to Linda said, do a better job of setting habits in place. I don't know about you, but I can't just will myself into doing something, right? Michael, eat better. Okay, done. Michael, make better choices. Done. Understand that habits is a long process. I really love the quote that we talked about earlier this week during Power Up, and it was one that came about from Pivot, which is sometimes we're succeeding so slowly we think we're failing. So I just want you to understand that when you're building habits, you're going to be doing so very, very incrementally. We talk about quantum leap, right? And quantum sounds like a really big word, but it has a really small meaning, right? It's talking about minuscule, molecular, very small change. And so understanding that your habits, putting better habits in place, that is really referencing around having the conversation of what's the thing that I can do today and what's the thing that I can do tomorrow. And eventually you're going to look back on 66 days, 90 days, a year, and just be really proud of the progress that you've made. And so that is a pretty good segue into the next bit, because we are going to do script practice here with our script partner. However, I want to have that conversation, which is, imagine if you picked one script per week and you practice that script 3 times a day, every single day for a week. How intentional would you be with your time, and how much better at that particular script would you be? And now let's say that you do that with 49 more scripts over the course of 50 weeks of this next year. How strong would you be? How confident would you be if you were practicing those 50 scripts with that much intention 15 times per week? And the reason that I ask that is because sometimes we want to practice a script today, and then we want to practice a different one tomorrow, and then we want to practice a different one after that. Be committed to one script for the entire week and practice it multiple times a day. And I promise that in a year's time, you will feel more confident in the words that you're using than someone who's been in this business for 30 years and has been winging it the entire time. All right. So every day we're going to be building on our success habits, and that starts with scripts. So go ahead and get with your script partner. I'm going to stop the screen share, and I'm going to grab over our script partner list so that I can have that pull up. If you, for whatever reason, your script partner is not here, or they're not answering you, or whatever it might be, please do not waste this time. Let's go ahead and make sure that we're able to communicate with one another, that we're able to have a partner. So if you see that your name is not on this link, you see that you do not have the answers that are there, then yes, I will do that. Hold on, Doreen is asking for the document, so hold please. This is the link to the toolkit that you all now have access to that has the scripts a part of it. If you do not have a script partner, please put in the chat box. I know that Rob Bowen was looking for a script partner. I see that Dave Plowman is here. Dave, I don't think has a partner, so if Dave and Rob want to get together, that would be great. If you do have a script partner that's here, Kimberly, I know that you're bouncing back and forth between this and your other commitments. So if script practice right now doesn't work for you, I totally get it. But please make sure that you're taking this time to get with your script partner. Let's go ahead and take the next 20 minutes to do so. So it is 10:10 now. I have the script partner matchup. If your phone number is not there, please put your phone number in there. And so let's go ahead and spend the next 20 minutes with our script partner. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat box. If not, then we will come back together at 10:30. Alrighty. All right, let's come back together. Let's go ahead and wrap up with script practice. I'd like to hear some takeaways. What are some things that you like about what your script partner has been doing? Maybe how conversation had come about. What are some things that you are taking away from your script practice?